What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We're back with another episode. It's a Thursday episode. I know it's so weird doing a Thursday episode, and we're so used to doing Sundays. But today, guys, I have a very awesome guest with me today. But before we get into that, I want to share some news real quick. Some news. You ready for this? This Sunday, there will be no show. It's Easter Sunday. I know, it just popped up out of nowhere. Like a bunny, it just pop. And no show this Sunday, and then we'll be back for another episode the following Sunday. Taking a week off, I'm relaxing, Bowie. All right.
Hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, Trenton.
But today, guys, we have an awesome guest. He's running for City Council District 7 at large. Mr. Bowie Hogg, how are you doing today?
I'm great today. Glad you got the number right. Sometimes people are like, "What number? What district are you running for?" So yeah, it is District 7, which I think I've become too monotonous on saying it. District 7 at large represents the entire city of Arlington. So if you live in Arlington, you can vote for this race. That's the
Yes.
clear, easy messaging.
Yeah, and like when I was talking to last week, or yeah, last week I had Long Fam. He's running
Okay.
for District 6 at large,
Yep.
and he's like, people were asking me like, what's at large mean? I go, it means everybody can vote. It's not just
Every
the district people.
Yeah, in Arlington, there's five single member districts, District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then there's three at large that represent the entire city. And then there's a mayor who represents the entire city.
Man.
So I always describe it as it gives you more people to reach out to or potentially to yell at that
Yeah,
officially represent you, one or the other. So
it's one of
that's
those.
where it kind of brings it to.
But how are you doing today? I want to know. Let's start basic. How have you been today? Is it it's a nice day outside.
It is an amazing day. It's been a day. Just to give you an idea of my day, I was up at 4 a.m. this morning.
Oh God, no.
Wait. Now let's be clear. That's 4 a.m. Eastern time because I was in Louisville, Kentucky for a business meeting yesterday,
Oh
and I
gosh.
knew I had to get back, so I took a flight home. I caught the 6:21 luckily this morning out of Louisville. 2 hour flight, landed. I walk into my house at probably 9 o'clock now. I grabbed some Chick-fil-A on the way home. Like, I'm ready. I was like, I've got like a 2 hour break till I have to go to a luncheon. I need to do a little work. And my wife is like bawling. And I'm like, what? And we have an elderly dog. He's
Mm.
13-year-old, a Labradane. And he's got some bone growths. And so, unfortunately, the end is not too far away and it did not hit him well today.
Oh.
And so I immediately called the vet. We're trying to figure it out. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't drink water. So now I'm like, okay, today's the day. Like, I'm about to have to put my dog down, and
Oh.
and so we're kind of checking him. And my wife went and got our daughters out of school because we're like, well, they got to spend the last few hours with him. I was like, let's see if we can do it. And so then I said, all right, he seems maintained. So then I went to a luncheon, and then I got home from lunch, and I've literally been on back to back to back calls. And then all of a sudden, my dog started eating and drinking water at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm like, overall, in the scheme of things, doing outstanding for the thing it is. Just another crazy day, and I tell everyone, I said, let me track you some of these days when you think you want to run for some political office, because that's how some of these days start linking together.
But I gotta ask you, running for office,
Yeah.
is it fun or is it stressful?
So I love it. I'm one of the maybe crazies that I love the campaign. Like, it is like today I went to the Arlington Board of Realtors, and I've been endorsed by the Arlington Board of Realtors, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But I got to talk to some folks that, I'll be honest, I would never normally talk to,
Yep.
right? And it's probably my family's personality. We've probably never met a stranger. We like chit chatting. We like doing those things. But it's long days. It's short nights. But as I told my wife when I was starting, when we were deciding to run, and we were asked, I said, all right, for the next, this is about 120 days out from the campaign. I said, let's set clear expectations. For the next 120 days, I'm going to underwhelm on my duties as a father. I'm not going to do what I really need to do. And I said, I'm going to be overly committed on things. And I said, I'm going to be even worse husband these next 120 days, just because it does take time and energy. And I can tell you that that is fulfilled, because if I'm going to do something, I do it full all out, no matter what. You go full force on it.
Mm.
And we're at that. And so we're at T minus, what's the official count? 25 days or
25
something.
days.
25 days till election day. So I keep telling, I think at 120 days, I said, you can do anything for 120 days.
Mm.
At 90 days, I was like, you can do anything for 90 days. Now I'm like, you can do anything for 25 days. Just keep pushing that number down till we get to election day at 7 p.m. That's
So
when it
is it
all.
is it just two candidates running right now?
There's just two candidates in
Okay,
my
so
race,
there's no
myself and one
runoff.
opponent. So there'll be no runoff. Nope.
No.
It'll be
Hey, there's that.
decided
There's that.
at 7 p.m. May 7th. The campaign is officially, the campaign will have results then.
I want to
The
ask you.
campaign's never over. The campaign's
It's never
never
over.
over, no matter what. Never. So
It's never over. I want to ask
no.
you though, are you nervous at all? Like I feeling like, because I was supposed to run
Yeah.
and planning on running, and I'm getting advice from people and asking them, like, people who've run, who people have ran before, lost, who's won. How does it feel like getting so close? You're 25 days. Do you have like a gut feeling right now, like I could win or I could lose?
You definitely have a gut feeling, but I always say, if you're not running paranoid and you're not running scared, you're not working hard enough.
That's right.
Right? And so you have to. I was at an event Sunday night, and a friend of mine, we were at a campaign event, and she said, the thing I commend Bowie the most about, she goes, I think he's going to win. Like, she was so confident. She goes, he's done it. She goes, but he's still, she goes, everything we've seen, he's gotten every single endorsement that's been out there. She goes, but he's still working like he's way behind in polling and everything like that. And so I think it is, it's that attitude of, the worst thing that could ever happen is you get to the final day and you say you didn't do everything you possibly could. I am one that's a believer, and you better go, if you're going to do something, do it all out. And
Yeah.
so it is there. So is there a gut? Do I think we're doing all the right things? Do I think we've got the momentum? Yes, without a doubt. I'd be lying if I didn't say that. But on the same note, it's like, you better keep it going. If you don't keep it going, you're going to regret what could happen. Because what do they say? A day is a lifetime in politics.
Yeah.
So in one day, everything could change. Everything could be blow up in your face. So you better keep working and stay on point on everything you're doing.
So I gotta ask you, what do you do as a what's besides running for this? What is your normal job?
Yeah, and listen, I've been in office. I served on the last 13 years on the school board, so I've been I've been in campaigns and doing that. I serve for a company called Hinge Health. We're the largest digital physical therapy company in the country. So how does that work? Someone is, listen, for large plans, employer plans, large companies, Fortune 500s. I sell to states and public universities, so only the biggest of public entities that are out there. The number 2 or number 3, and I don't want to get into boring healthcare spend, but the number 2 or number 3 spend is usually musculoskeletal problems. So back, knee, hip, or shoulder, right? Like those are big issues, and 2 out of 3 of those surgeries are avoidable as long as people are doing that. But there's challenges with physical therapy. People don't go all the time. They're not doing it properly. They don't want the copay. So the brilliant guys I know created this company about 7 years ago, and it's a digital physical therapy company that blends up. And so we send someone a tablet, and then they meet with a physical therapist. They wear these sensors, and they do all the physical therapy from their house with a physical therapist. It is awesome and crazy. And I'd be lying if I didn't say you always talk about what good things come out of a pandemic, right? We were already around before the pandemic, and we were already blowing up. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and it's like, everyone's like, oh, we've got to really expand digital health. And the digital health market as a whole has just grown exponentially. So, I guess I'd say I work for a startup. Our 2 founders are your stereotypical 35-year-old PhD Oxford dropouts, right? Like if that's not every stereotype there possibly is of a startup founder. These guys are just amazing, brilliant, brilliant animals is what I would call them, because they are just all over the place working really hard. So I'm proud to work for a company that has a service that really helps people. Also gives me the flexibility to really be able to serve my community. I remember going to them and talking to my CEO, and I immediately said, hey, here's what I'm doing. He was like, yes, do it. This is great. This is awesome. This makes you a better person as a whole. And I do think it helps me in my business life, because it does help me understand what, I get to see it from a vendor side as people are trying to call on school districts and those things, and so you get to see the way of governance. So then when you're working on that with clients, you understand that, you help that, so he was like, yes, do it without a doubt. We're all in, we're all in, we're all in. So it's been a nice, it's great to be able to have that flexibility and do these things. Listen, sometimes work can become monotonous, on that. And so finding things you really love. And that's what I found in my service to the city, serving on the school board. I found that, man, it is a proactive change. This is the thing I love. And as my wife said, she goes, you don't have like other hobbies like golfing or fishing or doing these things. She goes, you don't do those things. She goes, this is what you do. You love to serve the city. And I do. I'm not going to lie, it takes probably 30 hours a week, and it's a lot of nights and a lot of times that get blocked out. And you got to, if you're having work, if you're doing city or school board stuff during the day, that means you do some work stuff at night. I mean, you just bounce it all around. You have to balance it, but so you better love it to be able to do it. But
Yeah.
it's a true love.
Yeah. And like for me, I run my company, Chappell Media. We make films, podcasts.
Yeah.
I work for another company called Sour Kid Productions. Shout out to you guys out there. We're a podcasting company out in Dallas, and we focus on making media, making it accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you have an idea, you come out and do it. And yeah, you gotta love what you gotta do if you're gonna do it. I hate. I've worked so many jobs where I've hated it. I hate going in. I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's do this, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. And then when you get to where now I'm making a movie, and just like I've been writing it, and it's making me excited to create. Like I love creating things, and like, oh, I got an interview with Bowie Hogg today. Okay, I gotta make the thumbnails. I gotta make the bio.
Yeah.
I gotta make all this stuff and promote, and that's fun. But then going to this job, and it's just like, all right, hey Trenton, can you go do this for me real quick? Yeah, I got you. All right.
But listen, Trenton, I think sometimes we always want to say do what you love, but no matter what you're doing, what you love, there's pieces of that you're gonna hate, right? Yep. Like there's always pieces, that are no fun. I always say I would do my job for free. I get paid to travel, right? Like because I would rather not be on an airplane, and rather I would rather not be on a 6 a.m. flight from Louisville, Kentucky this morning, right? There's a bet I could have been.
Kentucky of all places too.
Yeah. Listen, I love Louisville. So don't give me that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it's finding that way, and there's always parts of any job and any career, if you run your own business, there's parts you don't like. That's part of it. But make sure those parts you really like really overwhelm and get you to that whole thing. That is the key. I think sometimes everyone's like, just do what you love. Well, sometimes you got to pay some bills. You got to do some things you maybe don't love so much. And part of governing, I always tell people, in this campaign, governing is really difficult. Governing is really hard. It is, anyone who thinks it's not hasn't done it, right? At any given time, I was at a luncheon for the Arlington Board of Realtors today, and I was sitting next to the mayor of Mansfield, and he and I have known each other for a long time. And I said, it's just, we were talking about how hard it is, and especially this day and age, how someone hates you with a passion at any given time. When you have to vote on something, the old saying of you're only as good as your last vote is so, so true. And they will, no matter what, someone will hate you. There's a reason they don't make elected officials win with 100%, right? Because it never happens. Someone at
They're
somewhere
never gonna
is
win over
that,
everybody.
that's right. So it's just part of it, and it is hard. And so there's parts of that you're not gonna like, and there's parts of governing that you're not gonna like. But boy, then you start seeing the outcomes of things you've developed and things you've done, and that is the payoff from where it comes. And you see how you can change things in this city that you love. That's the payoff
Yeah.
across the board.
I'm looking at your website here, and I'm reading your bio, and something popped out to me. All right,
Yeah.
it says many. It says quote many first met Bowie when he was the first chosen out of 216,000 applicants to appear in the first season of the Emmy-nominated television show The Apprentice.
Yeah, a
Tell me
little
about
fun
that.
fact, huh?
Tell me about that.
So I was 18 months out of college.
Hey.
I was in a job that was I loved. Like I thought I got recruited out of college. I graduated, grew up in Arlington, went to Duff Bailey in Arlington High School, and then went off to actually my first year out of college. I got recruited to play high school. I got recruited to play football. So I went to the United States Military Academy West Point to play football for Army, their prep school where they send their football players, and hurt my back and had back surgery. L4, L5, L5S1 surgery. So then I transferred down, went down to Texas A&M University, where almost all my family went. Graduated from Texas A&M. Knew I wanted to go into sales and do that for a career. And next thing I know, I get recruited by FedEx. I'm selling corporate accounts for FedEx. I'm ranked number 1 in the country. I'm 25 years old. Most of the people I'm working with are mid-30s. And then some friends I work with were like, you need to apply for this television show. And I said, I am too fat and too ugly to apply for a television show to be on there. And they were like, no, they were like, Mark Burnett from Survivor makes it. He's producing it. It's going to be in New York. Donald Trump.
Yep,
And
Donald Trump.
honestly, at this time I was like, I mean, you kind of knew who Donald Trump was. I knew he was a billionaire, the New York City real estate that
this was
had
before he was president,
life, right? Like, I didn't know a ton about him. And so next thing I know, I go and down on the Dubliner on Lower Greenville, I go to an open casting call in June of 2003. I still remember it. It's hot. I got my haircut in Arlington, then drove over there. Wait like 5 hours for an open casting call. And they were doing 16 open casting calls, which is a lot for a reality TV show. And so they're doing the open casting calls, and we sit down at a table of 5 people. Two of the people were drunk and they couldn't, go through, couldn't even handle it. And then there was like a doctor there and a lawyer there and myself. And, we start going through the process to go through. I have a daughter joining me.
Hey.
Say hello. You're blurred out. You can't get blurred. Hold on. Pop up. Ah!
Hello.
All right. Let me say hi to Trent. Let me finish this.
Hi.
Okay. Sorry.
You're all good.
For all the distractions. That's all right. And so next thing I know, we do the interview and they call me that night. And then I go in the next day and do like a 45-minute interview.
Wow.
And then, within about a month, they've narrowed it down from about 250,000 applicants to, they go down to about 2,000, then to about 200, and then they narrow it down to 50. Wow. And they fly me out to LA. I go out to LA and, interview with Mark Burnett, they start doing psychological tests. They start doing IQ tests. Like, they run you through the ringer. Like, we had to spend the first 2 days I did probably 10 hours of psychological tests.
My gosh.
They build psychological profiles on everyone because they want to see how people are going to mesh together.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing what they know. And they build this cast out, and they spend a lot of money on casting. And then next thing I know, I am one of 16. I'm the guy from Dallas, Dallas-Fort Worth area that is offered a spot on The Apprentice to be on the very first season. We didn't know what the show was. We didn't know the rules. We didn't know really anything about it. So I sell my house and I moved to New York, and I guess we flew up there September 11th of 2003. And we filmed it in September and October of 2003. It then started airing in January of 2004. So I was 25 years old at this time. Just a crazy time.
Wow.
To be doing this. Luckily, I was young, single. I was able to do all those things at
Yeah.
that time, and just I mean, talk about a real world experience to understand, for one, the world of media, the world of TV, the world of that side, and the world of business. It's just, I mean, truly a game changer, one of those things in your life. And I told someone I got fired for, so it was guys versus girls, and we were running Planet Hollywood in Times Square. But I told people, I said, it was probably good I got fired, because the longer people stayed, the more of their respect and reputation they lost. So it was probably good I got fired when I did, from that perspective. But just an amazing opportunity, to say the least.
Yep. If you look up the Apprentice season 1 and just type in Bowie Hogg, there you are.
Yeah, I'm on there, and I'm on that. I still say the best thing that came from that is it made me realize, um, I knew right then I was dedicated and I wanted to just live and spend the rest of my life in Arlington. I got to see the other side. I was living in New York for those times, and it made me realize, I love Arlington. There's nothing wrong with loving your hometown. And I think everyone goes to that battle of like, do I really want to live in my hometown? What's going on with that? And I was like, yeah, I do. I do want to live in my
Mm.
hometown. And I realized that. And so you can imagine, then when I came back from The Apprentice, I came back here, I bought a new house I was probably 20. For the next 6 months, 7 months, all I did was travel and make appearances. I've gotten paid to sit in speak at the worst little private colleges on the East Coast. And I was paid at one point to sit on a business ethics panel in this little private college. And I go, I'm 25 years old. What do I really know about business ethics, right? Like what are these things? But the power of, because people, I mean, you got to remember, you're probably too young, Trent. That show, when it aired, we were averaging 22 million viewers a week. We
It,
were battling. It was when American Idol was its peak, and we were either number one or American Idol was number one, and we were going back and forth
this was the
on
time
that
when like
show.
reality shows was like entertaining to watch.
Well, and it was the very first business show,
Yeah.
and listen, you can say what you want, like him, hate him, love him, whatever. And I can tell you, the opinions of Trump, people either want to hug you or stab you when they know you're connected with him. And I
Yeah.
was like, the kind of joke I make is, I was like, I was fired by the president before it was popular to be fired by the president.
Yep.
And so
So you
it was,
had, oh my gosh, so you had the you're fired to you.
he did what they call it, the Cobra. You're fired. You're fired.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, I was fired. And so the great story, tricks of the trade, when you actually get fired, the first 6 days we were up there, they did pre-photo shoots. And so, like, one night at 3 a.m., we had a call. And so we all had to get fired at 3 a.m. and go down and walk out like we were fired. So that then when you're actually fired, you actually just get on the elevator and go down to the basement, and you immediately get in a cab and start driving, and you drive around, so that they don't actually have to film you're walking out of the building
Yeah.
and getting in the cab. They have that film previously to put in, so that the press wouldn't know who actually got fired
That's
at
awesome.
that time. Yeah, pretty, the tricks of I got more questions. People were like, hey, when you were fired, like, was your suitcase already packed? And you're like, no, it actually wasn't. You get to go back the next day, and you get to pack the next day. And they're like, oh, okay. So yeah, it
It's
was
funny.
tricks of the trade. The power, the amazing, magical world of television.
Wow. That's it, that's so funny.
Well, I tell people, what an awesome experience, right?
I bet you that was like, hate him or love him, like that being in
Oh,
that.
listen, he made the ratings. He knew it was about him,
Yeah.
and it's funny, when he started, he was planning to do. They were, so him. Here's what I've been told: him and Mark Burnett each chipped in like $10 million to make the
My
show, because
gosh.
it cost about $20 million to make it. It was not a cheap show to make. They put us up. We actually stayed at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, his fourth floor, which is usually a retail floor. They built it into, in essence, a studio, where we all lived. And so, like, we lived, and then the boardroom was right next door. So it was walls, and it was all made. There was no ceiling, so that they could have cameras sticking over us and watching us. There was a boom mic hanging above my bed. There was a night vision camera in our room. I mean, like, they filmed me one more when I was in the shower, like washing my hair, and there's a glass screen, and they're doing an interview with me one morning. Like, You have no privacy whatsoever on anything you're doing. And so, and listen, he was a ratings
He
beast at
was
that time, and
he
it
he was a
probably
he was a ratings.
catapulted him to huge national prominence from that side.
And like even now, like he's still ratings. Like news sites talk
Yeah,
about him all the time, and they go up. You know,
yeah.
yeah. All right, Mr. Hogg.
Yeah, well, yeah, fun little fact. Fun fact. The other fact. Okay, so then you'll love this, and not to go off. So then I did that in 2004, 2003, 2004. It's 25. Well, then 3 summers ago, that TV show Big Brother.
Yeah.
So my older brother was on that 3 years ago, and so he was the old guy. He was 54 years old when he went on it, and
Wow.
he finished fourth. And we all kind of laughed. We're like, "What a midlife crisis!" Some people buy like a sports car, things like that. He went on Big Brother as the old guy on there and did outstanding. He
That's
did
funny.
great on that. So as we've said, I think with my name Bowie Hogg, his name Cliff Hogg, it's like we're dreams for casting agents.
Yeah.
We're fifth generation Texans. There's nothing really more Texan than us when they come around from where they come from. We're descendants of, so there's Governor Hogg. If you're familiar with Texas history, the first native born Texas governor was Jim Hogg.
Mm.
And Jim Hogg was in 1890, and he had 3 sons, and you've probably heard of his daughter's name. His daughter's name was Ima Hogg. Get it? I'm a hog. Yeah, it's real. You can look it up. To your guest or you that don't know it, there really was an I'm a hog. And so that was I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was my great grandfather's first cousin was
Wow.
Governor Hogg. So we're old, that old Texas group in there. So I think we're casting agents' dreams
Yeah.
when they come in, with that. And we're not afraid to chit chat and talk with people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
awesome that you got fired from Trump, and that's I want to get fired from him. That's just an honor. But Mr.
Yeah,
Hogg,
it was fun. And then when he ran for president, you're like, oh my goodness, and stay out of all that. I was like, I was already on school board and all that. I'm like, stay, here's what it is. Like, I can't say he never treated me poorly. He met my wife multiple times. He never treated her poorly. So I'll say that. If there some things he said I didn't disagree with, yeah, without a doubt, there were some I did. So
mm,
it's like I was taught a long time ago. There's never going to be one candidate you fully agree with on everything, no matter what.
nope.
Old land commissioner said the only candidate you may agree with on everything is yourself, and sometimes you're going to question yourself. I was like, yeah,
Yep.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point overall across the board.
So Mr. Hogg, besides being the the winner of the Apprentice, we'll fake news it for real quick. You're running for City Council of Arlington,
Yeah,
Texas, District 7 at large. And I want to get into some of your issues that you're running for.
sure.
I'm looking at your website here. Roadworks. A big issue right now in Arlington is our roads.
Yeah.
There are so many potholes. I mean, it's a disaster out there. When you get in, what are you going to do? How are you going to fix it?
You know what? And let me say this: it's not as bad of a disaster as it was 5 years ago.
It wasn't.
5 years ago was brutal. I remember I was in East Arlington visiting a school, and I said, "This is inexcusable what this street looks like. Like, this is inexcusable." And luckily, the previous council and the city did that. They added a sales tax increase. They put a bond in there, and so there's tons of roads that have gotten tons of work. The Ask Arlington app to be able to report potholes has been a big help. They're trying to do those, and so we have to worry about that. But we also have to worry about on roads. I think it's a bigger picture. If you are overbuilding the infrastructure in an area and you're causing more cars to go on that road than normal, you're going to have bigger road issues. You have to bigger problems. And you look at like the 360 corridor and the Lamar Boulevard corridor, and they're overbuilt. They're at capacity right now, and this is how one of my main issues I talk about is roads, but it's like neighborhood integrity, right? Like, what are we doing to protect our current neighborhoods and making sure we have the infrastructure in place to provide those basic services? And so we have to maintain our roads. And the problem with roads is once you get behind, it's a never ending cycle of you're constantly behind on repairing these roads. So I would say they have to continue the work they're doing. They have to continue the prioritization of what these roads are. And as a council member, you have to prioritize that money.
Mm.
You have to prioritize the money, because if you get behind, you may think, "Oh, I'm going to spend it on these other things." Well, great. You're now punishing future councils that need to do that, and they're going to have to come out and spend a lot of taxpayers' money to make up for that. But if you do some basic maintenance and maintain roads and redesign and prioritize and redevelop when a road is at unmanageable to be maintained, you got to tear it up and redo it. And they've done that across the board. You see these new roads that are getting, when a whole street gets torn up, that's all bond money. But now we have this quarter-cent sales tax for road improvements. So now we got to make sure it's being prioritized and being used the most effective way.
Yes, yes. And like when I was gonna run, my main focus was roads, and it was roads in residential and near schools. And I remember going to high school and like just driving that simple hill, and then I'm like, oh great, there goes my struts. Like,
Yep, there goes your tire. You'll pop a tire. You'll pop that.
and
You know,
it's
and there was a city. I remember I was years ago. I was traveling and I ran across something, and it was like I think it was the city of Cincinnati,
mm,
and I think this is something we do. And Mayor Williams did this a little bit with the RS Arlington and the pothole trucks that fixed that. You know, there was a problem when they were out like painting. The example I use is they were repainting a crosswalk, right? Like they knew it had to be repainted. Well, then they look at the crosswalk and they paint one section of them, and the other three are going to need it in the next 6 months, but they're not on the schedule that day.
yeah,
Do it then. Like close that whole thing down, get them all on the same cycle, the same schedule. And the same thing needs to happen with potholes. A pothole gets reported. Is that truck looking for other potholes on that street at the same time? Let's fix all of them in that area at once instead of saying, sorry, this is the only one that was reported that day. That's all we're
yeah,
working. That's not a good use of employees' times. It's not a good thing for the residents. So you've got to be more efficient in how you serve and service. And it's kind of crazy. We have to talk about potholes, but guess what? That's what cities are required to do.
yeah,
We're required to provide water services. We got to provide trash services. We got to provide roads. We got to provide stop signs and speed bumps, right? Like those things are not glamorous, but they're dang important if they screw up your car,
yeah.
or if you have someone driving by your house and there's not a speed bump or there's not a stop sign to slow them down and they're speeding every day. Guess what? You don't want your kids out playing in that yard if those things are in place. So they're not glamorous, but boy, they are essentials for a neighborhood. And I think too often council candidates don't think about the essentials that have to be in place.
Yeah, yeah, and I 100% agree with you. It's just I have a little incident here where I live. I'll tell you this little story here.
Okay.
We turn in, like here's like the streets, and you turn in, and there's a stop sign here for this road. There's a stop sign over here for this road, but there's a road that comes forward to like exit my neighborhood. And you know how many times they are near accidents, near like
Yep.
human collisions, because there's no stop sign right there. And it's just one. You also
It,
have reckless drivers everywhere too. Like we can't really complain that much because Dallas has like a drag racing problem right now, and it's just like we got
Dallas has a lot of
a lot
problems.
of
So
problems.
let's throw that out. But if you have that, you've got to have a way to report it and
Yes,
find that. And maybe sometimes it's a tough fix,
and that
right? Like
and the question was for that reason, how if you're elected, how will you be able to hear problems from like Arlington civilians? How
yeah.
are you going to be out there every week saying like, oh, what's some issues you've been having? Are you going to hold a town hall? Like, what are you going
Yeah,
to hold?
it's one of those. I think in the digital world,
Mm.
now post pandemic, we need to hold more digital town halls, like
Yes.
just plain and simple. Like I was sitting there, I was looking, and I'm probably about to do this for a campaign, and throw up like, hey, here's a sign up genius, and I'm gonna block like 3 or 4 nights, and say, guess what? For those of you who hadn't met, if you want to have a conversation with me, I'm going to block 15-minute times. And
Yes.
you can call me, and it's a one-on-one. Like, that's a one-on-one. We can do that one-on-one and do that. And it's easy. Like, I was in the trend for a long time when the pandemic was happening. Every night I try and go for a walk, right? Like, I try not to be too fat in the process. And so I would go for a walk every night at 9 o'clock from about 9 to 10. My kids are then in bed.
Hmm.
The only excuse you have not going for a walk then is you're watching TV or you're working on something, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I got to do it. But I realized I was spending a lot of time talking to constituents on the phone. And I was like, why don't I talk to them every night while I'm on this walk? So I would tell constituents when they had an issue, I was like, hey, can you talk tonight at 9? And I was shocked at how many said, yeah, that's outstanding. Because their kids are in bed, right? Their
Yeah.
kids are there. And so they're able to have the conversation that night. They're not rushed with work on those things. And then I would talk to my colleagues when I needed to talk to them about issues that were coming up. And so I think bringing that back is one key factor. You've got to have some basic town halls and some basic traditional attend. Like I've committed, I will be attending the Heart of Arlington Neighborhood Association meetings, the East Arlington Renewal, the We Can. So all these neighborhood association meetings are important to have a presence at, and you've
Mm.
got to have that because neighborhood associations drive a lot. So of course that's some traditional means of going that, but I think it's also finding some new means of technology wise of how someone to reach me. And then the last piece, and I've done this in my 13 years on the school board, and you can go to the AISD website and you can find my cell phone number on there, and it's still on there. And I think part of it is with a name like Bowie Hogg, I don't hide very well. Like I'm not. You can Google and find everything about me, and there's no hidden skeletons. Like, and my cell phone number is easy to find, and it's so funny when constituents call and they get you answer. They're like, "What is? I didn't expect that," and I'm like,
What's so funny too is Paige Payne.
"Uh huh,
She was the one that told me about you, and I was like, okay. And for me, my first thing I do is usually I find them on Facebook.
yeah,
Like I'll find you on Facebook, and then I'll find your campaign Facebook, and I'll look at what
yep,
you're doing. And there has been candidates. I'll even say this. There was a candidate during the election, the mayoral election with District 3 and I believe
yeah."
District 4.
District. It would have been District 3, 4, and 8, and
That's
then the
right.
mayor.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was looking through other people, and you know, there was a time where I didn't know any context. This is like my first, like, let's try to help out Arlington. I contact Jim Ross. I get him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, here we go. I interview Jim Ross. Goes great. I meet Paige. I'm talking to her. She's like, let's get together for the next election. I There was a campaign District 3. It was against Nikki Hunter and Diana Soleil.
Yep. Yep. I remember that one.
And I will say this: I know I followed Nikki on Facebook. I love what she's doing now. I endorsed Diana Soleil,
Okay.
and it's because some of her issues I related to a lot too. And I was like, I
Sure.
like what you do. I had her on my show and we talked, and I said I'm endorsing you. I had nothing against Nikki Hunter. Nikki Hunter's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
One thing about Nikki Hunter, I'll say, she's out at a lot of events.
She is at everything right now. I've
Everything.
gone to multiple events, and Nikki has endorsed me, so that's
Yeah.
a good thing. But Nikki, I'm sh- I warned Nikki because she's new, and I was like, hey, make sure you don't burn out because there's a real. Cause she is at everything
Mm.
all the time.
And I'll give her that. I go, she's at everything,
Uh huh.
and she was at everything when she was running.
Yep.
And that was one thing I liked about her, and everything else, like there was something. I think one views I didn't really agree with, but like there were several things I didn't agree with Diana. And so what I do is I look at campaign like candidates that I'm seeing. All right, let's see who they're running against or who is in that seat right now, and I see I don't really agree with that. I get to you, and I see the name Bowie Hogg, and I was like, who is this guy? And I contact Paige. She's like, oh yeah, Bowie, interview him. And so I was looking at what you do, and I was like, okay, there's some things I agree with in here.
Yeah.
I follow you, you follow me back. we're texting already. We start texting. Let's get like,
Yep.
oh, do this. We had a show planned, and it's so awesome that we can do that through social media.
It,
Before I had to email and wait, and just wait, and sometimes I never get an email back, and I'm like, all right, the election's over.
I think about it like so. My company I work for, um, we're a San Francisco startup.
Mm-hmm.
We barely use email whatsoever, right? At the company, we use Slack on everything. It's amazing how fast things are. When email comes in, it's from an outside, usually a outside firm, and so clients that we're working with. So we know we need to respond even faster. We use technology on. I did my expense report to expenses. All I do is scan each receipt and Expensify, and it all uploads automatically, and it's already turned in and already approved today. And I got home at 7:45 this morning. Like it is, like the power of technology has to be used. And then, why am I accessible? For one, I think I generally hate voicemail, right? Like the thought of
I hate
voicemail
it.
is. I think I actually turn mine where it says, "You can leave me a voicemail, but I'm not very good about checking it.
I hate mine.
Text me at
Text
any
me.
time."
Just text me. And, like,
Text me.
there's
Like,
no person. I think the only people that have landlines are like businesses. But if you're calling me on a cell phone, and
yeah.
that's my number, text me. I will respond. Oh, Bowie Hogg. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
sent.
I will spend almost immediately. It may take me a little bit because I'm in something where I can't just be texting. I try to be respectful with my phone with people, but the power of technology. It's like reach out and be accessible. This day and age, as an elected official, if you're not accessible, if you're not giving to your listeners, my cell phone number is 817-565-2636. Call me. Like it's not actually text me even better and then say, "Can you talk?" And we'll find times to
Yes.
talk, like that's why I'm saying, I'm going to find a sign up genius or some other app that's easier for booking times with people. When my clients book physical therapists, their whole schedule pops up and it says, "Here's all the 15-minute increments to meet your physical therapist. Choose one." And that's when the physical therapist is available. And so it's
Yeah.
not going back and forth on schedules and those type of things. It's finding a way because half the time as an elected official, sometimes you just got to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
People want to vent sometimes, and they
Yeah.
want to say, and the hard part of governing is you can't fix everything,
No.
right? Like, and you're one of 9 on this council, and you work as a unit together. You need to be advocates. You need to be advocacy for them, but you need to just be listening to constituents and voters, and taxpayers to say what's important, to those issues. Because there's been many things where one person has come up with an idea, and we've gone through and done it, and then I've
Mm-hmm.
seen other ones where 200 people had an idea and we're going, it's not the best idea. It's not
Yeah.
the best for the group that we're doing. So, reach out and advocacy is real and it works.
So you said something earlier. You said, can't fix everything, right?
Yeah.
But you know who can fix everything?
Who?
Our first sponsor of today's show. Give it up for Saved by Christ
Yeah.
Apparel, ladies and gentlemen. Hang on, let me get the clothing here. Saved by Christ Apparels are these awesome designer. Look at that. Come on, get the cross in. Look at that. That's
There
a
it is.
hoodie. Look at that. And then on the back.
Listen, I've started wearing hoodies more. Hoodies are
Hey,
nice. Like, I thought it was only like, I'm 44. I thought it was like only the younger generation. A hoodie's pretty nice. So,
hey, this hoodie right here is like ultimate warmth. Okay, it is wool. I gotta turn off my blur because it's like
yeah, turn it off. It's blurring it too much.
Yeah, it is. Hey,
There
you
it
got
is.
Elf in the background there. Look at that hoodie. This is the Destin hoodie. It has "I am Destin" Jeremiah
nice.
29:11. Guys, look at that. It is beautiful. Saved by Christ Apparels. Listen, there's that one. You got no. This is a little nod to something. Just pray. All right, a nod to Nike. But hey, it's
Yeah.
Saved by Christ Apparels. Red T-shirt, nothing but bag. Awesome, comfortable shirts, guys. Go to savedbychristapparels.com and use promo code TrentonC to get 20% off. I asked them to raise it up a little bit. It's really
That looks like a super soft shirt.
Oh, it's so soft, and it's
yeah,
great.
like
It's great
I
to go
think
walk in and
once you start moving to super soft t-shirts, you're like, whoa, wait a second. Why was I wearing these uncomfortable,
Oh,
heavy cotton, like it's like with dress shirts now. I only buy like the performance stretch because I'm
yes.
like, there's so much more like pants wise, like old slacks and dress like suits. I'm like, if it's not performance, it's like crazy. Like,
It's
why would you not
crazy.
wear that?
And
That
also,
t-shirt looks soft.
you know what I love about them too? They go up. Get ready. They have extra small, extra extra small. They also go up to 5XL.
As a 3X or 4X man, I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yes, same
So,
here.
okay,
I
I'm
love
in. I'm
that.
in. I'm going to order some.
Again, saved by ChristApparels.com. Use promo code Trenton C and you get 20% off.
All
Guys, it's a
right.
good deal, guys. All right. Let's talk about some other issues you have on here.
Sure.
I want to talk about prioritizing small businesses. Um, COVID-19 was a thing, you know, and a lot of businesses shut down, especially here in
Mm-hmm.
Texas. A lot of businesses were struggling because of the mandates and all this stuff, and now, oh gosh, now you had to enforce vaccines on people, on businesses that have more than 20 people or whatever it is now. What is your plan once you get elected to prioritize small businesses?
Yeah, and you start looking at COVID, right? And some small businesses really pivoted and have done great. Let's use a common restaurant that I think is a superstar in Arlington. You look at Prince Lebanese, right? A
Mm-hmm.
great restaurant. Aziz, who runs that up there, pivoted, and I remember talking to him, and he was so funny when he started doing that, and he started doing a quarantine pack, and you would get a roll of toilet paper with your meal, and it's because that's when they were like at a toilet paper shortage in all the grocery stores. And now you look at his business, and I can't remember what percentage he told me. A huge percent is carry out. A huge percent is drive through and order pre ahead, and you start looking at online delivery that's come up, and these businesses who have now started curbside. And so, how do we help them pivot? And so, how do we prioritize, right? As a city, are we doing things to help them understand how to pivot?
Mm-hmm.
Small business incubators are really good things, right? And so I think one of the things, we've got this economic development corp that's in place. And so we've got to use some of that. And one of the categories they'd like to do, and it's still they have an executive director now and they've hired, but are we doing a small business incubator, and are we targeting small businesses that are needed in Arlington? Because if we'll help someone create a small business that is truly a need from Arlington, it's good for the city. It's good for providing a need of something we want. And the residents, we have a shortage. The city they have lists. They know what they need of shortage of in those process in certain areas. There was a need. Example, they needed a downtown grocery, right? Like this one that went in, it's somewhat small business, but it's like, how do you find that and provide those needs for that? And so we've got to be an incubator. And then the second piece of really how you help small business, helping people understand how to start the business, and then potentially how to navigate City Hall.
Yeah.
City Hall is difficult to navigate, right? It is when you start going like, okay, so my wife owns a small business, and I guess that officially means I do too. We own a company called Flying Pig Balloons, and so amazingly, she started making balloons, like not like animals, but like these giant, crazy arches and things for parties and events. And she started making these, and she had no concept of how to file, how to start a business, what to do, all these things. And so I went through, luckily, I have some experience of, hey, here's what we need to do. Here's from a tax purpose what we need to do. Here's how we need to file. And she was like, I have to pay that much to the state to incorporate my business. She was like, I have that's one whole project I'm doing that I have to pay the state. I said, welcome to how this works. Oh, now you have to pay $40 a month for QuickBooks online. So we broke it down. We said, you have to do in essence 3 projects a month before you're breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just the reality of what you've got to do. And she's a former teacher, so she served our students for a long time. Then when we had our children, she stayed home. But now her business is thriving. She's doing
That's
work.
awesome.
She has connections, and so I think it's been really helpful to see. I'm trying to handle all the back office side for her and do some of the admin side, probably the non fun work. She's more of the creative
Mm-hmm.
on that side, and so I use her as an example of, she didn't have anyone to really help her walk through this process. She had me, and I didn't know it all. I had to call people I knew and say, "Hey, help me understand this. Called our accountant and said, what's the best way to, what should she file? Should sole proprietor, LLC, I mean, what do we want to do, and how do we do those things?" So I think that's where we have to prioritize them and make sure we're helping them understand what's needed, right? What are the target needs in Arlington for small businesses that we're missing? And then what's the way to navigate City Hall? And then how do we find ways? I remember years ago, we talked about the Apprentice. I was actually invited, and I was the Small Business Association Awards keynote speaker right after the Apprentice, right? Like, it was one that I didn't get paid for. I was getting paid to speak all over the country, but I came down and spoke for free because it was in Arlington, and I did it for free. And you see all these small businesses, and you understand job creation is from small businesses. So what are we doing to help these small businesses create a ton of jobs and create the entrepreneurship to start new podcasts, to start new things? That's what we've got to do as a city hall. We've got to be business friendly and say, we want your business here. We want you to do this. Here's how we're going to make it easier, and here's how we're going to make your business hopefully thrive and promote your business,
Yeah.
to every entity out there.
One thing Jim Ross did that I really liked was when he was running, he would go to businesses and
Yeah.
talk to them and make videos, and like that was awesome. And you know, he's a busy guy, I get that, but like candidates running right now should be definitely going out there and doing that.
Yeah.
And like, how can when I'm elected, what do you want me to do to help you? And it we should be doing that more.
And it's not about, like, yeah, he did it, but he's continued it. He's
He
still
has.
trying. He's now doing Experience Arlington. He's showing these things because it's amazing when you talk to these guys. Like the one Jen went to is my barber, also, right? John's barber shop. And boy, when you start hearing the stories of things his landlord may be doing that he doesn't love, how they, why they potentially, what it can really do to a shopping center that houses all small businesses, to have a grant to do new awnings and new redesign for that whole center. Well, then it's helping drive more traffic into all these businesses that are in there, these small businesses. I think there's an insurance agency, a nail salon, a barber shop, a restaurant, a flower shop. I mean, just all these little small businesses that all come together, and they need each other, and they need traffic to be able to grow their business, from that perspective. And so it's a critical factor to help them find that. I live up in Northwest Arlington, and Fielder Plaza. It went through a redesign. The developers came in. I think they had some funding from the city, and they redesigned that whole. And new things have popped up. And that's what the city can do. The city can be a catalyst to help incentivize some of that growth, of what's needed.
Yeah. I gotta ask you another question about your
Okay.
policies here. I see public safety.
Yeah.
Invest in public safety. I'm gonna add something to it because we're
Okay.
talking about firefighters, police, and everything. I'm gonna add something to it. What are you going to do, or how are you going to work with the AISD board to enforce safety in schools?
Yeah.
My thing is that I want safety in schools. I think honestly, if education is so, like, if that's important to government, schools should be treated like government buildings.
Yeah.
You can't go inside a municipal court without going through a metal detector type thing. And yet we're having kids killing kids.
Yeah.
So I want safety in schools. So how are you going to work with the ISD to protect our kids and our teachers?
So listen, that's one of the key catalysts I'm running on. I spent 13 years on the school board,
Mm,
and so bridging that gap. And I know sometimes people don't believe it, but sometimes the school district and the city doesn't always agree,
mm.
right? And so bridging that gap is a critical factor to help those understand. For example, police and fire, and I've been endorsed by the police and fire associations because of the work. There's actually, there's a shortage of school resource officers right now. And the AISD would like, they have a contract with the APD. They would like more school resource officers, but APD is also having our time filling all the officer positions in the street. So you've got to bring that. And as much as we can talk about, so your example of metal detectors, right?
Yeah.
Like, luckily, the Arlington ISD has such a partnership with APD. Actually, one of the recommendations they make is not a daily random metal detector. And
Really?
why do they say that? It creates more of a target zone for safety, because you think about it, when you're running these big high schools, right? And that's really what you're talking about, general
Yeah.
metal detectors. Most people say it. Okay, so now you have a 4,000 person high school and it's running through maybe 8 sections. It's going to get backed up no matter what. And it then creates, in essence, a target zone for potentially a shooter, for potentially a driver to drive up and do that. And so they do believe random metal detectors work better. And I think the schools have to realize, and we always did it, we have a head of security who's a former lieutenant in the police department. And then you bring in the police department and let the police be really specialized
No.
in what they're doing on school safety. The schools, AISD doesn't audit, but crime in a city, if you look, so in our city of Arlington right now, homicides are actually down, right? But aggravated assaults and rape are actually up.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and why is rape caused up? Because there's so much extra family violence because of the pandemic, of what's happening. More people are at home more often and those type of things. And so guess what? You know, Fights and things are actually down in the schools on there, but when they do fight, it's much more violent. We have more kids that do potentially bring weapons to schools and some of those things, and they correlate with each other. Something people don't maybe necessarily know. Sam Houston High School in December had they were having a lot of crime during lunchtime, because most of the high schools in Arlington are open. Open lunch. You can go, and as long as you're a junior or senior, you can go eat lunch anywhere you want, is the way to do it, and lets the kids do that. But there was higher crime, and it wasn't the students committing the crime, it was other people committing crime on these students during lunch. So APD came and said, we need for a month, the month of December, to have closed campus. We just need less traffic in the streets. We need less. And so there were some small businesses that it's like, oh, that hurt them. They rely on those students for lunch, but it was also what was needed to tone down the crime in that area at the time. And so that's how those things start working together, and understanding, like, okay, that's great. We're trying to do on the crime. Now you're worried about the small business. Now, and then you're like, as a school district, you're like, okay, so now we have an extra 1,000 kids, maybe 2,000 kids we have to feed every day in the school. So that changes staffing and those models to build it up and change that from that. And so, but it's a critical factor to bring those together, and find ways to do those. The biggest power, and I give APD a lot of credit. People always talk about school shootings. I would tell you, I'm more worried about child abductions
Oh yeah.
than school shootings, right? And though, because guess what? Unfortunately, a child abduction happens every single day in this country. It happens every single day. And so in the last bond election, security was a huge factor. Oh, sorry, it's late. My light went off, and
It's tell you to.
my light went off. Got dark on me. But the last bond election was almost all doors now have keypad codes.
Yep.
So they have electronic codes, so you can buzz in and out, and get there. And it just provides anyone from being able to just walk into a school, which it used to kind of be that way. You could just walk in anywhere. And so you've got to use technology. We added a huge amount of cameras. Cameras are huge factors to help reduce crime and monitor. And so those are actually directly connected to APD on those cameras. So APD can actually then look at those cameras, and if something is happening, you can get there. The reality is, since the pandemic, fights in schools and crime and everything has gone up. Like kids have been locked down, adults have been locked down, and it's like,
Hell, even I want to go out there and fight.
Yes.
Like
they forgot how to interact with others. And there's some pent up rage,
and mental health has gone up too, because
it is.
Even for me, when COVID happened, I was trained to become a manager at somewhere, and
Yeah.
I got laid off because I was a new hire. So like, oh, we can't
Yeah.
afford to keep you. I was like, okay, no problem. I was stuck in my house for like 2 3 months, and I went insane. I had to go do something, and I see it. With my I have nephews. They hated doing online school.
Yeah. Oh,
I
without a
hated
doubt.
doing online school.
Yep.
I was online college. I thrive
Well,
on
listen,
seeing other people.
online school did not work.
It
Like,
sucked.
I mean, now listen, there's some high school programs and there's some kids that thrived in online, but overall, for the majority, it did not work. It also exposed how many people in our community don't have Wi-Fi access.
Yes.
So you're having those challenges before they go. But we were talking about, sorry to go back to crime. I was
You're all
just
good.
looking up the police chief was in the other day. They're doing a pilot program where when they go for a domestic, so they talk about rapes being up, right?
Yeah.
Rape is up. And aggravated assaults from domestic violence are up. So they have a pilot program now where they do scheduled follow-up calls. So when they go in, for one, they have mental health counselors that can go with them to calls, which is important because police officers are not trained mental health professionals.
Mm.
And so they go in, they help on that, but then they go in and meet with them, but then they have a scheduled follow-up call that they're automatically going to go back in 4 hours and check on that and just do a knock and check to make sure it's toned down, make sure everything's still running smooth, because a lot of times they will leave, charges aren't pressed, something like that happens, and then there's a domestic violence that night, there's a potential rape, alcohol's involved, those type of things. And so they're doing a pilot, and it's they're bringing victim service personnel, and they're doing these scheduled lockup, and they can lock up the perpetrator at that time when they come back if it hasn't toned down. And so I think those are things that come in place that really help build those together. And the police coincide with the schools, right? These kids are coming from these homes that crime is happening in their neighborhood, and then they're coming to school with that same thought process. An old superintendent said, the parents are sending us the kids they have, right? Let's educate the kids they have, and they're products of their home environment. And it's hard when a kid's coming from that environment and they may have had domestic violence the night before. You can imagine they get in school and then someone says something to them and they're a little quicker to respond. And so unfortunately the crime and the rate of violence in schools, they kind of coincide with each other,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about your endorsements here. I'm looking at your
Sure.
list here, and it's a pretty impressive resume you got here.
I've pulled a pretty strong endorsement list.
You got Mayor Jim Ross of Arlington, Texas.
Yeah.
Former Mayor Jeff Williams. Great guy, honestly.
He is a good guy.
Really good guy.
He's a hard worker, hard worker.
You got Andrew Peel, who is a councilman here. Nikki Hunter, we discussed her. I gotta ask you, like, when you go out, is it awkward asking for the endorsement? Like, hey, you know, uh, can you endorse me? Like, is it like that, or what do you do?
It is, and especially I think with elected officials, I'm always very cautious because sometimes you don't want to put them in a bind, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do that. But on the same note, like Mayor Ross, he's trying to build a strong team.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to build a strong team around him. Council member of this seat that is currently in the seat, Victoria Farrar Myers. I talked right when I decided to run. I immediately called every single council member. I called every single one of them to talk and say, hey, it's my courtesy to let you know here's what I'm pursuing. And also, let's talk about it. What have you seen good? What have you seen bad? And Victoria Farrar Myers and I talked, and we've known each other a long time. And then she came back out, and I said, all right, I didn't want to make it awkward and ask you too soon because I didn't know where you stood. And she was like, yeah, I think you're the right person to serve. So, of course, I'm going to endorse you.
That's awesome.
And I think so many of them, I think also why that endorsement list has grown so much with term limits now and only having 6 years. It takes governing experience now because governing's difficult and you've got to figure out how to do this, how to get into this and do this. And it takes time to understand how to work with constituents. And so I think so many, State Rep David Cook, Sheriff Wayburn, Sue Phillips, who runs East Arlington Renewal, came out and endorsed me. I received the Impact endorsement, the Board of Realtors.
You got Matt Krause.
Matt
That's
Krause,
awesome.
who we worked with constantly. I think I have more than half the current council, multiple former council members, but then multiple leaders within the community and teachers and across the board. My endorsement list is huge. Say it, it's big, right? I've got a lot of endorsement, and it shows how hard I've worked, and I think how I've served well. Sometimes I say sometimes people maybe just want someone who's not crazy to serve, and I've proven maybe I'm not crazy on that. But I also think I've I've made myself very available in the community. I work hard in the community. They know I'm not just doing this for fun. This is what I do. It's
Yeah.
what I enjoy, and I have a 5-year-old and 7-year-old daughter and a wife who grew up here. We want them to love this city as much as we love this city. And if we don't make some changes, it's hard. They may not. We all have friends that have moved to Mansfield, to Southlake, to Grapevine, Colleyville. We all have those friends, right? I have those friends. I can't tell you. I graduated from Arlington High School in 1996. The countless number of friends. It
Arlington
was
High School for one. Hang on. No. Oh man.
There, as a school board member, all the high schools are great. That's how I always go on. I can sing all the fight songs on that. But we want to find those, and you look at what's happened in downtown Arlington, and there's some sections of Arlington that have finally become cool.
Okay.
And everyone wants some cool stuff, but everyone also wants a safe city and a good city and doing the right things. And for too long, Arlington didn't address that we're a large urban city. We're the 50th largest city in the U.S. So sometimes I say, let's start acting like we're
Yeah.
a large city. As Mayor Green said, we're no one's damn suburb on that. And so I think it's a true perspective across the board.
Wow. Well, our final sponsor today, Mr. Hogg, is poddex.com. Have you heard of Poddex?
I have not heard of Poddex.
Let me
That's
tell you
what I've
about.
not heard of.
Let me tell you about them,
All
okay?
right.
That way you can be educated. No. Poddex allow you to make your podcast 10 times better, 100 times better, a million times better. I'm going that far. There are these cool deck of cards that have questions, topics, different types of things. Just pick a
Cool.
card, any card. But honestly, we're going to be using the Would You Rather deck. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of Would You Rather questions here in a minute. But if you're interested in making your podcast better or just getting them in, hey, maybe they're a fun thing to use for your conferences or like to get to know seminars type of
It
things.
sounds like a corporate icebreaker sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then go to poddex.com and use promo code TCLIVE to get 10% off your first purchase. Again, that's TCLIVE. That's TC Live. Get it? Trenton Chappell Live.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you get it? You get it? You sure? Let me explain it
TCL.
one more time. It's TCLIVE.
Do people confuse TLC sometimes?
Oh, yeah. I get TLC. TCL is the big one. I abbreviate to TCL now. But TLC is the big one. But yeah, don't get me confused with them. Different people. But again, guys,
Yeah.
TCLIVE to get 10% off your first purchase. All right, Mr. Hogg, this is
Awesome. Let's play.
the
Love
sponsored segment of today's show, poddex.com. Go check them out. Would you rather? Are you ready for this?
Listen, let's be honest. I'm nervous. I feel like sometimes would you rather games get dirty.
Oh,
but
no.
I'm
These are
the
clean.
one.
I got the clean ones out for you.
Yeah.
I don't want to know who you could be kissing in high school today, all right?
Yeah,
All right?
we don't need, no one needs to know that. So
Would you rather have no eyebrows or an extra finger? Oh, yeah.
oh my, I'd probably go with an extra finger. Like what? I mean, it sounds like a cool party trick, and okay. So funny story. Right before I went on The Apprentice, I was playing co-ed indoor soccer, which was a bad idea, and I'm goalie, and I block a ball, and the girl's knee goes into my eye right here.
Oh.
10 days before I'm scheduled to go on live on national television. And so I go and I'm mad, and I go to the hospital, and I'm holding this pad over my face. There's blood hanging down, and the nurse comes in. I said, all right, I'm either going to be a really good patient or a really bad patient. She goes, why? I go, I've got to ask, are you going to shave my eyebrow? Because my fear was like, oh my God, she's going to shave my eyebrow, and I'm about to be on national television looking crazy. And she goes, "Honey, we haven't shaved eyebrows in 30 years because sometimes they go back." So she just put like They put 8 stitches in, and then in New York we cut the stitches out ourselves right before filming, because of that. So you're asked the question about eyebrows. I'm probably paranoid about my eyebrows going away. I'd probably take an extra finger. Sorry, long answer to that short question. But
Okay, okay. All right, next one. Would you rather work with dead people in a morticianary, or work in the busiest ER trauma unit in the world?
I would probably, there's a side of me. I'd probably like to be a mortician for some
Yeah,
real reason. Like every mortician I know, I've kind of liked. They've all been really nice people. And they, I think they're both. Here's the weird part: they're both caring. They're both working to help people, and what a nice way to send someone off and do it right and proper, from that side. So I'd probably. Neither of them sound terrible. But
it's
I,
basically asking. I think, would you rather work in a slow environment or a
yeah,
fast-paced environment?
I'd probably rather have fast-paced environment, but I also probably would rather say I'm probably not going to be a doctor ever.
No, me
So
either.
yeah, so I'd probably go with the mortician thing.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Would you rather be able to record your thoughts or your dreams while you sleep?
Oh, I'd rather record my
Oh,
dreams.
same here.
Yeah, I have very very vivid dreams. I get into a lot of like reading and analyzing dreams, and some of those things, and I love the dreams, and I have some really, anytime I'm sick, it's so funny. I take Mucinex when it catch a little sick, and
You
it's
get
like some hallucinogen for me, and
yes.
it makes my dreams go crazy. It doesn't do it to my wife, but it makes me dream like crazy. So I always like in the morning wake up and write down what they are, and she was like, "You have lost your mind on some of those." So
I've had
yeah,
some like
I record my dreams.
for the last couple like months, I've had the same two dreams. It's the
Yeah.
one where like you're walking and then you just fall and the impact you do wakes you up. And like I'm not even like up on a hill or anything. It's just like I'm on the curb and I fall off the curb and it's like a short little fall and it's so hard. I'm like and then the other one is like I constantly like my teeth break. It,
Oh,
and like I looked up the meaning of both and the teeth breaking one is means that you're stressed.
oh yeah.
And so that's my biggest thing right now is teeth. Like I don't want any teeth gone or anything. Like I'm paranoid about my teeth, and that's what during COVID I was really stressed, and so I'd grind a lot,
Oh,
and so I think the dreams happen, and I'm just like, and like, it's like cartoon, where like, and they all like shatter.
there's a
Like it,
lot of studies out there that show like what you're doing before affects your dreams,
yeah,
as a whole. And then there's an old, I don't know if there's any truth to it. I was always told if you take 20 deep breaths before you go to bed, like 20 deep ones, you have deeper dreams. And so try it tonight. Try 20 deep breaths right before you go to bed. See if it always makes me have more vivid dreams when I do my 20 breaths before bed.
okay, I will. I'll text you in the morning.
Yeah, and it's like 20. Like I start. I probably usually do 40 because I start. I count up and then I count down, and I usually don't make it through all of them. I'm usually
You're like
asleep.
you're passed out. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
like I
passing
fall
yourself
asleep
out.
midway counting because it just helps you fall asleep, and I think you have more vivid dreams because I think it puts you into a little, REM sleep a little faster.
Yeah,
So that's when you are not REM, the earlier stage. You remember what it is. I think is what happens.
yeah. Next question. This is a good one.
Okay.
Would you rather have your face printed on money or your own small town named in your honor?
Oh, I'd rather have my own small town named in my honor.
Isn't there already a Bowie, Texas?
There is the Bowie Jackrabbits, up there, from where it is,
Wait,
but
what? They're called the
yeah,
Jackrabbits?
The Bowie Jackrabbits is their mascot.
Awesome.
Um, and then there's Jim Hogg County after the governor on that. But you know what?
Bowie
If you have
Hogg.
a own small town named after you, that means you moved off. And there's something, even though I'm born and raised in Arlington, there's something about a small town environment that's just nice and peaceful and good on that. And how cool if you're kind of originally, the first settler or whatever it is for that town and helped establish that town. Those are cool stories.
See, I have two named after me. I got Trenton, New Jersey, which is a capital, and I got
Yeah.
Trenton, Texas. So
Look at
I'm just better.
it.
But honestly, I would actually pick the money one. I think that'd be interesting to have my face on $100 bill and just like doing like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here you go, and there's me.
As long as you're getting the money, also,
Oh
that's
yeah, it's
what.
just going to me. I'll put a trademark on it, so every time somebody uses it, I get a fund.
A little piece. You get
Yeah,
a
I get
penny.
a piece of that. All right. Would you rather have your head be too big for your body, or your hands be too small for your size?
Oh.
Yeah.
Small hands remind me of carnies, so that kind of freaks me out. And like, I pretty much have a big head. I mean, my body's pretty big, but my head's pretty big already. I wear a size 8 hat, so I don't know how much bigger it could get. But small hands kind of make me nervous over, what is it? Small hands, carny, small hands smell like cabbage or something is
Yeah.
what they say. So small hands make me, that seems weird to me.
So you're gonna go big head?
I'm going, yeah, of course. What? Come on, what elected official doesn't say, yeah, I'm gonna have a big head?
Yeah,
Like,
man,
come
they
on.
gotta have huge hands.
Yeah, the elected officials, we all pretty much have big heads already. So let's be honest.
All right, you pick left, right, or middle.
Left.
Left. So this one for
No,
me.
other one,
Oh
other
my.
side.
Okay, I got you. I
That
got you. I
one, my
got you.
left. Yeah.
Would you rather get your hand stuck in a meat grinder or a blender?
Oh my
There you
god.
go. You picked that
Like the
one.
greatest fear on either of those.
Man.
Like I feel like blender because it go faster.
Oh yeah, it would.
It would go quicker, and oh my, that makes me cringe. Like just
Yes.
thinking about.
Because
I
meat
could have
grinder would go
never. I could
slow,
never.
and you'd feel it, and it's on the other side. It's coming out.
I I never would have made it in the mafia because if I had to do that to
Oh,
someone, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm
I'd be
out.
throwing
I
up. I'm
can't
like,
do that to anyone. Like much less your hand. Like I'm not doing that to someone else. I would never have made it in the mafia.
no way, I couldn't do it.
Oh man, that
Yeah.
sounds
All right, left or right?
left. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Would you rather accidentally laugh loudly at a funeral or fart while giving a speech at a wedding? I would rather laugh, honestly. I laugh usually at weddings anyway, or funerals anyways.
Roll. Oh, that is.
Like body
I
going into the
probably
grave and you're just
okay.
cracking up.
I'd probably rather go with fart while giving a
I
speech
couldn't.
because I've given a lot of speeches and I've probably done it at some point somewhere. So like there's a way you could tweak that and turn it into a motivational story or something like that from that perspective.
See,
So
like with me, it's like my friends and family, like if we laughed at like a funeral, other people would
yeah,
join in and laugh because of just the pure embarrassment. But that's
but
just
I'm
me.
picturing the awkward laugh like he was such a good son, and you're like, ha 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 ha. You're like, oh my god, why are they laughing?
Yeah. So last question.
All
It's
right.
actually I did not pick this one out. This was a complete
Okay.
coincidence. But the person in this R.I.P. All right. Would you rather your voice sound like Gilbert Godfrey
Oh.
or Fran Drescher?
No, I was sad. I was so
I'm
sad when
sad.
Gilbert Godfrey passed away this week.
That's
He
awful.
was
We're
what a
losing
guy that
everybody.
he was friends with everyone, and he was back in the good old days of comedians where people weren't offended
No.
by comedians, and he would get extreme on sometimes. And he took this crazy voice and turned it into his whole bit and whole, talk about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
He took this personality that he had, and I've heard his voice is like that normally, but he makes it worse when he's telling jokes and things like that. So in honor of him just passing away, you have to choose Gilbert
You
Godfrey.
gotta pick him. But yeah. Well,
And he's
guys.
a comedian, and Fran Drescher makes me want to like, it's like nails on a
Yeah.
chalkboard when he talks. I'm like,
Oh yeah. So yeah, Gilbert Godfrey all the way. R.I.P. to the king.
someone showed it. They were like showed a picture the other day. It was like Bob Saget, Louis Anderson, and Gilbert Godfrey all passed away. I was like,
And then
oh,
we had Betty White at the end of last year.
Yeah, all three. They were all like,
Like,
oh man, like
who's next? That's the question.
Bob Saget was a pretty funny comedian. There were some
That was
jokes
a
he would tell.
surprise.
Yeah,
Like both
he
of these were surprises.
yeah, I was like, wow, all right, like
Wow.
yeah,
But yeah, well, poddex.com. Use promo code TCLIVE to get 10% off your first purchase. Mr. Hogg, I want to thank you for your time
you.
and talking to me about your policies, getting to know you, and everything. Um, it was an honor talking to you. I love sitting down with candidates and learning
Yeah,
about them and how we can better our city together. And so I can't wait to see who wins. It's this is like I love
yeah.
politics. It's just so much fun to see like okay, I know these people, so it's like
Unfortunately, there's a winner and loser in all
there
the
is.
situations, and that's part of it. That's the way it goes.
But
So,
yeah,
and when we're done and when we win, which I'm gonna work on hard and make sure we win,
we're gonna win.
I'll come back on anytime we can talk
Oh
about
yeah,
any issue in the city or fun issues or anything, or just shoot the bull for a
yeah, we
while.
gotta shoot it. Where can they find you and how work when do they vote?
Yeah, early voting starts April 25th, so a week from this next Monday. So we are in the home stretch to get out to early voting. So this next week, so April 25th to May 3rd is early voting. Election day is May 7th. With the name Bowie Hogg, I'm easy to find. BOWIEHOGG, and it's just BowieHogg.com. You can find me on Facebook at Vote Hog or just Bowie Hogg, and I'm on Twitter. I think it's just Bowie Hogg, and Instagram at Bowie Hogg. Luckily, there's not two of me out there. Even though I did have my
I did
first
see that.
imitation account, which I was a little flattered that someone imitated me. So I was like, there's a side of me. I was like, okay, that's cool. But yeah, just BowieHog.com, and you can find my cell phone. You can find everything out there, and contact me on anything anyone needs.
Yeah. And guys, that's it for today's episode. Remember, no show this Sunday. It's Easter Sunday, so we're gonna take a nice week off. Next show will be April 24th with a surprise guest. I don't announce the guests in advance. You guys sign up for the newsletter for that, guys. Sorry. But yeah, buoyhog.com. Check them out. And yeah, that's today's show. Thank you, Mr. Hogg, again. And
Thanks, Trenton.
I guess we're out of here.
We'll see you. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.